This is how he refutes the Islamic dilemma? All right, let's finish it.
In this verse, the prophet is the one who relieves for the Jews and Christians some of the burdens and shackles which were upon them. This is related to the laws that were prescribed to them. We will see examples of this in just a moment. The second verse requires that everyone must follow the prophet to be guided. He was sent to all of mankind, not merely the Arabs. There are many more similar verses like this in the Quran. One example of the prophet and the Quran abrogating certain laws for the people of the book is found in 6:146, and I quote, "And to those who are Jews, we prohibited every animal of uncloven hoof, and of the cattle and the sheep, we prohibited to them their fat, except what adheres to their backs, or the entrails, or what is joined with bone. By that we repaid them for their transgression, and indeed we are truthful." These are dietary restrictions that Allah required the Jews follow on account of their transgression. This is contrasted with the new dietary laws in the prior verse that only list pork as forbidden. Quran 6:124 also mentions the change in Sabbath laws. The Sabbath was only appointed for those who differed over it. The Sabbath was only appointed for a specific group of people. The Sabbath and the laws surrounding it are no longer required to be followed. There are plenty more examples of the Quran intentionally abrogating laws from previous scriptures, but that should suffice to make the desired point for now. Even before the coming of the prophet.
So he just buried himself, Lardass. He just admitted Jesus abrogated commands in the Torah. Now, remember, I'm watching this live with you. And yet, Jesus confirmed the Torah to be uncorrupt, preserved, and authentic while abrogating the commands. So if abrogating commands means a scripture is corrupt, then the Quran abrogating itself means your Quran is corrupt. And I'm going to bury him in a minute on that. Yeah, see? How stupid. He's using the very verse that ends his career and shows why Muhammad makes you stupid.
Prophet Muhammad, parts of the Torah were already no longer authoritative for the Jews. In Quran 3:50, Jesus says to the Jews, and I quote, "And I have come confirming what was before me of the Torah, and to make lawful for you some of what was forbidden to you. And I have come to you with a sign from your Lord, so fear Allah and obey me." Close quote. In this verse, Jesus is making lawful for the Jews some of what was previously forbidden for them. This means some of the laws from the Torah were no longer authoritative for the Jews to follow even during Jesus' time. How could the Quran require the Jews to follow all of the Torah during the Prophet Muhammad's time if it acknowledges it already abrogated laws from the Torah prior to his coming?
See how stupid this guy is? He still doesn't get it. Let me explain it real quickly. Chapter 5, 43, 48 is talking about Jews who don't accept Jesus and Muhammad. It says, since you don't accept Jesus and Muhammad, follow your Torah. That's how. Then it says, that was 5:43, 45. In 5:46, 47, it says, to those who follow Jesus and his gospel, keep judging and living in accord with the gospel of Jesus that's with you. And he just quoted the verse that says it's with them if you don't follow Muhammad. When do Jews and Christians follow the Quran and disregard the Bible? When they become Muslims. If you don't become a Muslim, Muhammad says, follow your gospel. Jews, follow your Torah if you don't want to follow Jesus, and if you don't want to follow me. But I'm going to turn the tables in a minute. Just be patient, because we're going to save his alleged contradictions. I just saw he brings out alleged contradictions in the Bible for part 3, Lord willing.
David will respond again, as I predict, by claiming that the Quran contradicts itself.
No,
he cannot read the Quran consistently.
Even though it does.
Even if the source is not divine, according to David and other Christians, they should at least attempt to operate on the principle of charity, where one does not claim.
So I'm operating on the principle of charity. Your Quran says, if Jews and Christians do not follow their scriptures, scriptures that would point them to Muhammad, then their punishment is to pay the jizya, and they can stay Jews and Christians. Your Quran then says to the Jews who want to stay Jews, follow your Torah, because you won't follow Muhammad, and you won't follow Jesus. To the Christians, follow your gospel, because you won't follow Muhammad. And Muslims, you follow the Quran. Plain and simple. No refutation of Islamic dilemma. This was the best?
Claim that a singular author constantly contradicts himself within the same sentence.
You better believe
This
that.
is not an honest scholarly attempt at reading a source.
No way.
David's response results in the absurdity that the Quran contradicts itself when it tells believers to follow the entire Quran, while at the same time it abrogates certain
Well, look how
verses
stupid
within
this
it.
guy is. Remember, I'm watching this with you. I haven't seen the opening statement. He just told you the Quran abrogates itself. Does that mean there are parts of the Quran that are corrupt? Is that what he's saying? How did this guy think he won the debate? Now, brothers and sisters, honestly, I'm watching this for the first time with you. I'm already anticipating how to destroy his objection, and he's doing it for me. He now says the Quran originally allowed alcohol. Quran later abrogated this ruling and prohibited it. So you just admit the Quran abrogates itself. So if the Quran abrogating the laws of the Bible means the Bible's corrupt, then the Quran abrogating itself means there are parts of the Quran that are corrupt. They're not from God. They're from the pit of hell. They're garbage. Burn them, flush them in the toilet.
For example, the Quran initially allowed drinking alcohol and later prohibited it. How could we follow the entire Quran if some verses allowed drinking alcohol while others prohibited it?
He just admit the Quran contradicts itself. You see how stupid he is? He said, be charitable and don't assume an author will contradict himself. But he just admitted the Quran contradicts itself because in one place it says you can drink, but don't come drunk to your prayers. Another place says don't even drink at all. But he's assuming that one abrogates the other because he's basing it on extra Quranic sources written over 100 years after Muhammad to reconcile these contradictions. What an idiot this guy is. Watch how I'm going to destroy your reputation, brother, in humanity.
It's simple because we recognize one verse was for a specific time and context, and the later verse regarding prohibition.
How do you know which verse is later? Watch now. We're going to go out with a bang. No, this was a stupid debate. No, brother, what he's arguing is the Quran abrogates the Bible's legislation, which means the Bible is not authentic. So if the Quran abrogating commands in the Bible means the Bible's not authentic, then the Quran abrogating itself means the Quran is garbage. You understand? Man, this is one of the stupidest arguments I've ever heard.
Was for all time going forward. There is no contradiction at all.
Yes, there is.
A contradiction only exists in the minds of those who are so uncharitable with their reading that they could create a contradiction about literally anything.
No, but you just admit, Muslim Lardass, the Quran originally allowed alcohol, then abrogated it. So note, he just admit there are statements in the Quran that says you can have alcohol. But then he says there are statements of the Quran that prohibit it. But then he begs the question, because he doesn't know logic, because he's stupid. He's not smart. Guys, he's not intelligent. He is stupid. And I'll prove it. That because one verse was earlier, and the verse that came later, prohibiting alcohol, abrogated the previous verse. Now I'm going to destroy his argument. Hold on a second.
Let's look at some biblical examples.
Okay. Remember, he says, originally prohibited alcohol. They question thee about strong drinks and games of chance. Say, in both is great sin and some utility for men. But the sin of them is greater than their usefulness. That's it. They ask thee what they ought to spend. Say, that which is superfluous. Thus Allah maketh plain to you his revelations, that perhaps, haply you may reflect. Let me use Yusuf Ali. It's a little more modern English. All right. They asked thee concerning wine and gambling, intoxicants. All right. Now 443. O you who believe, approach not prayers with a mind befogged until you can understand all that ye say. Let me add 2 translations, man. They're killing me. It's like you don't know what translation to use. O believers, Draw not near to prayer when you are drunken, until you know what you are saying. So here it says you can drink, but don't come to prayers drunk. But you can drink, right? Or defile, unless you are traversing away until you have washed yourselves. But if you are sick or on a journey, or if anyone of you comes from the privy, or you've touched women, you can find no water, then have recourse to wholesome dust, wipe your faces and your hands. God is all pardoning, all forgiving. So notice, here it says, just don't come drunk to your prayers until you're sober. Meaning you can drink. You can even get drunk, but not during times of prayer. Here it says, wine, arrow shuffling, benefit and sin, but the sin is greater. Now watch the contradiction. 590-91. O believers, wine and arrow shuffling, idols and divining arrows are an abomination, some of Satan's work. How can wine and arrow shuffling be evil, be an abomination, wicked, because it's Satan's work, if we're told wine and arrow shuffling has sin and benefit, though the sin is greater? Which is it? Is it an abomination? Is it evil? Is it wicked? And it's from Satan, not from Allah? Or it has some benefit and sin, though the sin is greater? And if wine is of Satan, why then say you can get drunk as long as you're not drunk at the time of your prayer? Perhaps so you will prosper. Satan only desires to precipitate enmity and hatred between you in regard to wine and arrow shuffling, and to bar you from the remembrance of God and from prayer. Will you then desist? Now you see the burial?